All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep into a part of Star Trek that's, well, it's not your typical pristine starship. It's a little more of a rough around the edges frontier town.
That's a great way to put it. We're talking about Star Trek. Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is a series that, to be honest, I didn't really watch when it first came out.
A lot of people didn't. It was a departure for Star Trek.
So for those of us who missed it the first time around, set the stage for us. What makes Deep Space Nine so unique?
Well, for starters, it's not set on a starship. It takes place on a space station, a former Kardashian mining station, actually.
Okay, so right off the bat, we're dealing with a different vibe here.
Yeah.
A space station, not a starship. That suggests a very different kind of story.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Instead of boldly going where no one has gone before, we're stationed right next to a wormhole, a gateway to a whole other quadrant of the galaxy.
Hold on, a wormhole. We're not just talking about exploring new planets here.
Yeah.
We're talking about a shortcut to a whole new section of the galaxy.
Exactly. And that wormhole changes everything. It brings new opportunities, new dangers, and a whole lot of new problems for the people on Deep Space Nine.
So who are these people stuck on this, shall we say, pre-owned space station next to a giant cosmic mystery?
Well, you've got the Bajorans, who just recently gained their independence from the Kardashians after years of occupation.
Yeah, wow. So they're essentially inheriting this station from their former oppressors. That's got to be a lot of baggage.
It definitely creates a lot of tension. And then you've got Starfleet, who've been invited to help the Bajorans run the station and, maybe spread a little Federation goodwill.
So we've got Bajorans rebuilding their society after decades of oppression, and Starfleet with their optimistic, sometimes maybe a little naive view of the future, trying to work together.
It's a recipe for conflict, that's for sure. But it also makes for some incredibly compelling drama.
I can imagine. So who's the poor soul in charge of keeping this powder keg from exploding?
That would be Commander Benjamin Sisko, a Starfleet officer who is still grieving the loss of his wife, sent to this. Let's call it a vibrant corner of space.
Yeah, vibrant sounds like a diplomatic way to put it. I'm sensing a theme here. A lot of conflict, a lot of tension.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like the typical utopian federation we're used to seeing in Star Trek.
And that's one of the things that makes Deep Space Nine so unique. It's not afraid to show the darker side of the Star Trek universe. The compromises, the moral ambiguities, the messy realities of interstellar politics.
So it's a more grounded, more realistic take on Star Trek.
Exactly. And then just when things couldn't get any more complicated, they discover a stable wormhole right next to the station.
Wait a minute. Didn't you say there was a wormhole already?
Yes, but this is a stable one. It's a gateway to the unexplored Gamma Quadrant full of possibilities and dangers.
A stable wormhole.
Uh,
Okay, now we're talking game changer. This is huge. This is bigger than just interesting. This is like opening a door to a whole new universe.
Exactly. And for the Bajorans, it's even more significant than that. They believe this wormhole is the Celestial Temple, home to the prophets, powerful beings they've worshipped for centuries.
Whoa, so this isn't just about exploration and first contact. This wormhole has a deep spiritual significance for the Bajorans.
Yeah.
How does Starfleet even begin to navigate that?
Very carefully, to say the least. And things get even more complicated when Sisko himself is hailed as the emissary of the prophets, basically a religious figurehead.
Hold up. A Starfleet officer as a religious icon. That's got to create some serious internal conflict for Sisko.
Oh, absolutely. He's a man of science, trained to think rationally, suddenly thrust into a role that defies logic and explanation.
I bet that tension between science and faith plays a big role in this series.
It's one of the core themes of Deep Space Nine. And it's not just Sisko who's struggling with it. The entire station is this melting pot of different cultures, different beliefs, different ways of seeing the world.
So it's a show about finding common ground, about bridging those divides, even when it seems impossible.
That's a big part of it. But it's also about recognizing that sometimes those divides can't be bridged and how we deal with that reality.
You mentioned dangers earlier. What kind of threats are lurking on the other side of this wormhole?
Well, the wormhole doesn't just attract explorers and traders, it also draws the attention of a powerful and terrifying force known as the Dominion.
The Dominion. That name sounds ominous. What are we talking about here? Some kind of super advanced alien race.
Something far more insidious than that. The Dominion is an empire from the Gamma Quadrant, ruled by shape-shifting founders who see solids, that's non-shapeshifters, as inherently inferior.
Shapeshifters. Okay, now I'm getting goosebumps. That's straight out of a sci-fi nightmare. What do they want?
Control. The founders are deeply suspicious of anyone they can't control. They believe that order can only be achieved through absolute dominance, and they have no qualms about using any means necessary to achieve that goal.
So not exactly the friendly, welcoming committee you'd hope for in a new quadrant of space. This sounds like Deep Space Nine is about to become the front line in a whole new kind of war.
And this isn't just about territory or resources, it's a clash of ideologies, a battle for the very soul of the galaxy. The Dominion represents everything the Federation stands against: control, conformity, the suppression of individual freedom.
This is heavy stuff. So not only are they dealing with internal tensions and cultural clashes, but they've also got this existential threat looming over them.
It's a lot for one space station to handle, and it makes for some of the most compelling television ever produced.
I'm starting to understand why Deep Space Nine has such a devoted fan base. It's not just about spaceships and phasers. It's about exploring the human condition, the choices we make, the consequences of those choices, and the challenges of building a better future, even in the face of overwhelming odds.
You've hit the nail on the head. Deep Space Nine is a ship that dares to ask the tough questions, to delve into the moral complexities of the Star Trek universe, and to challenge our preconceived notions of what it means to be human.
This is fascinating stuff. But you mentioned something earlier that really caught my attention. You said Deep Space Nine wasn't just about external threats. It also explores the darker side of the Federation itself. You mentioned something called Section 31.
Ah, yes, Section 31.
Yeah.
They operate in the shadows. A clandestine organization that believes the ends justify the means, even if those means are morally questionable.
A secret organization within Starfleet, doing whatever it takes to protect the Federation. That sounds more like a spy thriller than Star Trek. Are we talking about the good guys here or something a little more ambiguous?
That's the question Deep Space Nine forces us to ask. Is there a point where our ideals become compromised, where the pursuit of security overrides our principles?
That's a chilling question, and one that's all too relevant in our own world today.
And it's not just Section 31. Sisko himself is forced to make some tough choices that challenge his own morality and the very principles he represents.
It sounds like Deep Space Nine isn't afraid to delve into those gray areas, those moments where the line between right and wrong becomes blurred.
Absolutely. It's a show that challenges us to think critically about our own values and to recognize that even in a future where humanity has made incredible progress, we'll still face difficult choices and moral compromises.
I'm sensing a theme here. Deep Space Nine seems to be all about challenging our expectations, about subverting the traditional Star Trek tropes, and forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
You're absolutely right. It's not afraid to push the boundaries of what Star Trek can be, and in doing so, it creates a richer, more complex, and ultimately more rewarding viewing experience.
Okay, we've talked about the serious stuff, but before we dive any deeper, I'm curious to learn more about the day-to-day life on Deep Space Nine. We've got all these different species, cultures, and ideologies crammed onto one space station. It can't be all tense standoffs and political negotiations, right? What's it like for the average person just trying to live their life on Deep Space Nine?
Well, imagine a bustling spaceport with all its color and chaos. You've got Bajoran religious leaders rubbing shoulders with Ferengi businessmen, Starfleet officers trying to maintain order, and all sorts of alien species passing through, each with their own customs and agendas.
It sounds like a recipe for some serious culture shock.
It definitely keeps things interesting, and it's through those everyday interactions, those moments of conflict and resolution, that we see the characters grow and evolve. You've got families raising kids, businesses trying to make a profit, people falling in love, people getting their hearts broken. It's life, but on a space station at the edge of the unknown.
It sounds like there's a real sense of community on Deep Space Nine, despite all the chaos and uncertainty.
There is, and that's one of the things that makes it so appealing. It's not just about exploring strange new worlds, it's about exploring the human experience in all its messy glory.
And that human experience includes those moments of humor, right? Because I have to imagine with so many different personalities and cultures colliding, there's got to be some comedic gold in there.
Oh, absolutely. Deep Space Nine has a great sense of humor. It's not afraid to poke fun at itself, at Star Trek conventions, and even at the human condition itself.
So it's not all doom and gloom and moral dilemmas.
Not at all. There are plenty of lighthearted moments, quirky characters, and even some outright slapstick comedy.
That's good to know. It sounds like there's really something for everyone in Deep Space Nine. Action, adventure, drama, comedy, romance, social commentary. They've got it all.
They really do. It's a show that defies easy categorization. And that's part of what makes it so special.
We've talked a lot about how Deep Space Nine challenges the conventions of Star Trek, but I'm curious, what are some of the ways it actually builds on those conventions? How does it pay homage to the Star Trek legacy while also forging its own path?
That's a great question. Well, for starters, Deep Space Nine retains that core Star Trek optimism, that belief in a better future, but it doesn't shy away from acknowledging the challenges we face in getting there.
So it's like a more mature, more nuanced take on the utopian ideals of the Federation.
I think that's a fair assessment. It also expands on the Star Trek universe in some really interesting ways. We see more of Bajoran culture, we learn more about the Cardassians, and we're introduced to a whole host of new alien species, some friendly, some not so much.
And it really dives deep into the characters, right? Giving them backstories, flaws, and complexities that we haven't seen in previous Star Trek shows.
Exactly. The characters in Deep Space Nine feel like real people with real problems and real emotions. They're not just there to serve the plot, they drive the story forward with their own agency and their own unique perspectives.
It's that character development that really hooks you, isn't it? When you start to care about the T-Spill, their struggles become your struggles, their triumphs become your triumphs.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes Deep Space Nine so emotionally resonant. It's a show that stays with you long after you've finished watching it.
We've talked a lot about the big picture stuff, the war, the politics, the moral dilemmas. But I'm curious to hear about some of the smaller, more personal stories that stood out to you. What are some of your favorite character moments or relationships from Deep Space Nine?
There are so many to choose from, but one that always comes to mind is the relationship between Odo, the shape-shifting security chief, and Kira Nerys, the former Bajoran freedom fighter.
Oh, yes, their relationship is so fascinating. They're both such strong, independent characters, but they also have this deep vulnerability that they slowly reveal to each other over the course of the series.
It's a slow burn, but it's so worth the wait. And it's not just romantic. They have this incredible respect and admiration for each other that transcends any labels.
It's a beautiful example of how Deep Space Nine can create these complex, nuanced relationships that feel both real and aspirational.
And their story isn't just about romance, it's also about identity, belonging, and the search for meaning in a chaotic universe.
It's those layers of meaning that make Deep Space Nine so rewarding to watch.
Yeah.
There's always something more to uncover, something more to think about.
And it's not just Odo and Kira. There are so many other great character pairings. Sisko and Dax, Bashir and O'Brien, Quark and Odo. The list goes on and on.
It's like a rich tapestry of interconnected stories, each one contributing to the overall narrative.
Exactly. And it's that sense of interconnectedness that makes Deep Space Nine feel so alive, so vibrant, so real.
It's funny. We started this conversation by talking about how Deep Space Nine is a departure from the traditional Star Trek formula. But as we've been talking, I've realized that it also embodies the very essence of what makes Star Trek so great.
It's that blend of optimism and realism, that willingness to explore the human condition, that commitment to social commentary, and that unwavering belief in the power of hope and compassion.
It's Star Trek for a new generation, a show that speaks to the complexities of our modern world while still holding on to that core belief in a better future.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Deep Space Nine is a testament to the enduring power of Star Trek and its ability to evolve and adapt while staying true to its core values.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive into the world of Star Trek. Deep Space Nine. But don't worry, we'll be back soon to continue our exploration of this fascinating and complex series.
I'm already looking forward to it. We've only just scratched the surface of what Deep Space Nine has to offer. We've been talking about how Deep Space Nine really digs into the complexities of the Star Trek universe. And one of the things that always fascinates me is how they handle the Ferengi.
Yeah, the Ferengi. In the other shows, they were kind of a one-dimensional species.
Yeah.
Always scheming, always obsessed with profit.
Right. They were almost a comic relief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Deep Space Nine, they're given so much more depth.
They become real characters with their own struggles and aspirations.
Like Quark, for example.
Quark is such a great character. He's this quintessential Ferengi, always looking for a way to make a profit.
But he also has this heart, this sense of loyalty to his friends and family.
And he's constantly wrestling with his own beliefs. His culture tells him one thing, but his experiences on Deep Space Nine challenge those beliefs.
It's like he's caught between two worlds.
Exactly. And it makes him such a compelling character to watch.
And it's not just Quark. We see other Ferengi characters like Nog and Rom, who also break free from the traditional Ferengi mold.
No, especially. He goes from being a mischievous little troublemaker to a respected Starfleet officer.
That's right. It's amazing to see how far he comes.
And Rom, he eventually embraces his own unique talents and finds his own path to success, even if it doesn't fit the traditional Ferengi definition of success.
It's like Deep Space Nine is saying that even the most rigid cultures can evolve and change.
That even within the most traditional societies, there's room for individuality and growth.
And it does it in such a believable way. You really see these characters struggle with their beliefs and their choices.
It's not just preachy or heavy-handed. It feels organic to the story and to the characters themselves.
It's another example of how Deep Space Nine is willing to take risks to push the boundaries of what Star Trek can be.
And in doing so, it creates something truly special. A show that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. A show that challenges our assumptions and expands our understanding of the human experience.
Well said. As we've been talking about all these different aspects of Deep Space Nine, I've been thinking about the overall message of the show. What do you think the writers were trying to say with this series?
That's a great question. I think one of the core messages of Deep Space Nine is that the universe is a complex and messy place. There are no easy answers, no simple solutions.
It's not about good versus evil. It's about the shades of gray in between.
Exactly. And it's about how we navigate those gray areas, how we make difficult choices, how we deal with the consequences of those choices, and how we find meaning and purpose in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
It's about recognizing that even in a future where we've achieved so much, there will always be challenges to face, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
And it's about the importance of hope, compassion, and understanding, even in the face of adversity.
I think Deep Space Nine is a show that's more relevant today than ever before. We live in a world that feels increasingly divided and uncertain.
A world where we're constantly bombarded with information and opinions, where it's hard to know what to believe or who to trust.
And yet Deep Space Nine reminds us that even in the midst of all that chaos, there's still room for connection, for empathy, for finding common ground.
It's a show that challenges us to think critically about the world around us, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the complexities of the human experience.
It's a show that gives us hope that even in the darkest of times, we can find our way back to the light.
And that's a message that we all need to hear right now.
Well said. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of Star Trek. Deep Space Nine. It's been an incredible journey exploring this complex and thought-provoking series.
It certainly has, and I hope our listeners will take the time to discover it for themselves.
I'm sure they won't be disappointed. So until next time, live long and prosper.